Oneshell Media International proudly presents
5 Most Haunted Islands.
Number 5. Cursed Lokrum Island.
Lokrum Island is known for its famous curse, stating that anyone who claims the island for personal pleasure will be damned. In 1023, a deadly fire burst and spread on Lokrum Island, engulfing most of the island in flames. The people living there were desperate, and prayed to Saint Benedict that if the fire were extinguished, they would build a monastery in his name. The fire instantly went out, and so they celebrated and built the monastery. Years later, the priests who now lived on what is now sacred ground were expelled by Napoleon, but upon leaving they placed a curse on the island. 50 years later, a rich member of the Habsburg family, a wealthy and powerful family, read more about them here, tore down the monastery and turned it into a sort of resort for himself. As the curse promised, he met an unfortunate fate. The Republicans executed him, and his wife went slowly mad staring at the sea. So, if you're thinking about visiting one of most haunted islands in the world, for a bit of fun, don't.
Number 4. Daksa Island.
Daksa, at first, is a puzzling island. Looking at it, it's clearly the perfect place to set up a tourism-based business, being a beautiful, 12-acre in Denmark's hottest tourist spot. You could make a killing, easily, yet no one will buy it, despite its extraordinarily low price of 1.7 million euros. This is indeed puzzling, at first. Then you look into its history, and realize why. The island was the site of a horrific massacre, which some locals now believe has led to the haunting to the island. A group of people who were alleged to be Nazis were shot without a trial and left to die. There was no trial, no evidence to say they were Nazis, and the families of the victims claim they weren't actually Nazis. Some of the people shot turned out to be Catholic priests.
Number 3. Deadman's Island.
Deadman's Island is where diseased prisoners aboard floating water prisons were sent to die. The prisoners were aboard ship prisons known as prison hulks 200 years ago. When the tide goes out, you can still see their bodies and coffins just below the surface of the mud they were buried in. The public doesn't have access to the island, and you can only visit it when you've gained special permission. The island is now haunted by ghosts, headless skeletons, and red-eyed devil dogs said to eat the heads of its victims.
Number 2. Norfolk Island.
Unabashed, unashamed, unscrupulous, murderers, rapists, and hooligans were the only population of Norfolk Island, and that's including the guards supposed to create order. The Australian island quickly became one of the most violent places in the world, after England rounded up many of its worst prisoners and sent them here. The guards abused the prisoners abused the guards, and they all abused each other. It's no wonder a place like this became haunted. Years later, in the late 20th century, residents of the now peaceful island were interviewed. About 50% of them were reported to have had an encounter with a ghost. This is undoubtedly one of the world's most haunted islands.
Number 1. The Island of the Dolls.
A man named Don Julian came to the island in the 1950s, and while there he heard the voice of a young girl. He eventually discovered that the girl had died from drowning on the island a long time ago. He decided to bring a large number of dolls to the island, and then hang them from trees. 61 years later, he was found dead. He drowned in exactly the same spot the little girl had died in. On one occasion, the dolls were possessed by the girl's spirit and made to move, and even whisper. Julian's nephew claims the Don was hearing voices come from the water, and even that it was calling to him. This is considered by many to one of the most haunted islands in the world.
Please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates.